It's been a crazy week. How you doing?
Need a bottle of coffee.
I do need a whole bottle of coffee. We've found some places in Portland. Everywhere has gigabit in Portland. Portland is a very interesting city. Almost every place we looked at down there had 2 or 3 different options for internet, and 1 or 2 was typically gigabit. Even the offices we're looking at, it's still you're paying higher prices at the office. We have multiple options for gigabit. So what's up with the rest of the country? It's kind of weird. It feels like, and you know what else is really funny, Wendell? When I was talking to a lot of the people down there, we would be like, you have more than one option for internet? And they'd be like, yeah? Why is that weird? They just take it for granted. You guys don't know how good you have it. And you're like, what do you mean? Only one option. I was like, oh God, you guys need to travel and feel the pain a little bit. Feel the pain of the rest of the world, so.
I know we complained about internet in America, but I feel so bad for you guys in Australia because you guys are way ahead of America in terms of how backward and retarded your internet has become. Sorry. The current thing that's happening in America is that AT&T is convincing all the local governments and local, even entire states, to allow them to not maintain their copper networks. And then when the states allow them to do that, anybody that's in their region that is leasing lines from them, so like if you have a third-party ISP, the thing that's going down as a matter of strategy inside AT&T is that they're doubling and tripling their prices for circuit access to companies that are providing internet and competing services that AT&T provides in an effort to monopolize the market. So, we had the 96 Telecommunications Act where it was like, we're going to share infrastructure, and AT&T is hard at work removing the last vestiges of that here in America. So, yay, competition.
Before we get into anything, I want to make an announcement. The Deskmats are back in the store. People have been going crazy asking for the Deskmats, so they're back. I usually don't do
the show.
I usually wait till the end.
Everyone has left. This video is going to have 4 views.
We'll sell 400 Deskmats, though. Does that mean we can just goof off now that no one's here? We're just going to say whatever we want. I mean, who cares? They're all gone.
No one cares anymore anyway. It's fine. We don't care. It's whatever. Although now we've got the office to pay for in Portland, so that's kind of a thing.
Yeah, that'll be a thing.
LAN party. We got to pay for that.
Yeah, and prostitution's not legal there, to my knowledge, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Just have to figure it out, I guess. Anyway, the facepalm shirt is doing well. Thank you guys for suggesting an evolution of facepalm. Who suggested that? Someone suggested it. We made it. I'll send you a cake. I'm lying. So, yeah, lots of things going on the site. Deskmats are back. I'm wearing my Tenochi Road shirt. Quite enjoy this. And I want to mention one thing about Land Syndicate. It's the sales are picking up, and right now we're trying to figure out what exactly what to do as far as tournaments and that sort of thing. We're going to have a few tournaments. I'm not sure. Do you guys want Street Fighter 5? Do you want Quake? Do you want Doom 1, 2? And we may do some things, just some fun things with the sponsors. Like, we'll be at one booth for 2 hours, and you can come and try to win some hardware if you can beat Kane or I or Wendell in Half-Life or Quake or some game. We'll have a little bit of fun. So we'll have lots of different tournaments. I'm kind of curious. I want to know what you guys want to play at the event and what tournaments you want to see, because we're going to have a lot of prizes for these tournaments. We've been talking to some people and our different vendors, and they're like, yeah, we'll throw some prizes for some of these crazy tournaments and whatnot. So it's going to be quite a bit of fun, and hopefully we'll see a lot of you guys there in April.
From my closet.
Just random crap you're going to bring?
Prizes.
Should we bring a pallet?
Maybe Model M. I mean, that would be worth like $1,000. But one of the space savers. But there's probably also a lot of other random crap. It's like, oh look, you've got an APU from 5 years ago when they first came out. This is not totally worth $20.
We should go down to Orville's and get a whole pallet and bring it out here and not tell anybody who or what or where it came from.
The stream is completely unprepared for Orville.
I don't know. If you guys want a pallet from Orville, let us know. And you should want that without even knowing what it means. It's one of those things. You really want this. Trust us. Let's get down to the business right now with some of these articles. So, by 2020, there's going to be more people with a cell phone than people who have electricity. Kind of an interesting number. By 2020, that's going to be it's going to be 3.5. Where is it? 5.5. Where's the number? 5.4 billion people. That's what it is there, and then 5.3 billion will have electricity.
This doesn't bother me for a lot of reasons. This may sound weird, but it's not actually weird at all. Okay, in a third world country where they don't even have the infrastructure for electricity, phones work really well. They're self-contained. They have their own power. from a relatively small solar setup. You can power them and everything's great. But, that's sort of the third world version. Imagine the modern world version of that, which is there's a guy that I know that did pretty well in the whole .com thing, and he's got a cabin. It's not a huge cabin, but from one relatively small solar cell and a bunch of lead acid batteries in his basement, he's able to do all of his lighting, charge appliances. He even has hot water, which is, unless he stays there more than like a week, in which case the batteries can't keep up. But the need to be on the grid is sort of overstated. I mean, when you've got LED low voltage lighting and you get the high E glass and a really efficient heating system, don't need an air conditioner in the mountains, you really don't need a lot in the way of electricity. And, one small solar panel can really take care of pretty much all of your electrical needs. Now, if you're raising a family and, you want air conditioning, you're going to need a lot more than one small solar panel. But think about, the less developed nations, what they're dealing with. I mean, it's like, oh, they don't have electricity. It's like, yeah, but solar is so cheap and easy, and low voltage lighting is so cheap and easy. And you need electricity for cooking, maybe, although you can use wood for cooking as well, although it's not quite as clean. So, this doesn't really, it's like,
There's
shocking.
another angle to
They
this.
don't have this.
Yeah, there's another angle to this I think we should maybe look at, because with that many people connected, Cisco, they did a little report, and they have been forecasting that mobile data use is going to increase by a factor of 10, so a tenfold increase. That's ridiculous. So they're saying 366.8 exabytes of mobile data traffic by 2020. What kind of infrastructure are we going to need for that? Because already there's a lot of congestion in some areas, in different places in the world, different cities and that sort of thing. What are we going to have to do to be able to realize a tenfold growth in mobile data traffic? And I mean, if we look at the way the industry is going right now, what they do is they just start throttling people, and you're still paying for a premium service, and you're paying for 4G or whatever, but during prime time, you're definitely not getting full 4G speeds. You're sharing it with everybody else. As many people can connect to the tower are connecting to it and just sucking all the bandwidth out of it. So they're going to have to do a lot to upgrade infrastructure to be able to support 366.8 exabytes of data. And I'm not sure that the companies here are that enthusiastic about upgrading as much as they are about acquiring one another and that sort of thing. We'll see some upgrades, obviously. Maybe in the next 5 years. 5 years is not a long time. Maybe we'll see some new technology as well. I mean, we've got to. That's another thing. We've got to figure out some new technologies. So I don't know. You got any ideas of what we might be able to do here?
What we will need to do in order to realize our, high bandwidth, hyper connected wireless future is ditch the incumbents. And not only ditch the incumbents with fire, because that is all that is going. We could not drag them into the future kicking and screaming. They're going to try to. It's like, we built this stuff 50 years ago. You're going to have to ration 5 megabits among the 27 people in your household. Sorry, just deal with it.
Yeah.
They're not interested in providing better service because they don't have to be.
So maybe in the next 5 years, I mean, it's like a lot of their business practices have been purposefully anti-modern technology because they've got all this legacy stuff. And they're like, oh, the modern stuff is going to destroy our legacy stuff. But they're not playing chess. They're playing checkers, and they just want to get kinged. That's all they do. They're trying to get kinged.
Like, Australia really is a microcosm of just how bad this can be, which is, let's install fiber. It's like, oh, we're making progress with our fiber network. Oh, let's not install fiber. Let's install more awful copper and fewer companies and less competition among companies, and let's erect as many bureaucratic barriers as possible to make it impossible for other companies to actually provide connectivity and bandwidth and things like that. And Australia, honestly, is relatively flat. I mean, if you have point-to-point wireless communication that is, has a very low spread, even though it is wireless spectrum, you can do really well with that and cover a lot of ground with only a few towers. But man, it is so messed up in Australia, and that's going to be a model for America. Like, they didn't think they could get away with that in America, or America was wired before companies were that corrupt and conglomerated. But now that they're that corrupt and conglomerated, it's like, well, we're getting away with it in Australia. Let's try it in America.
Ready to talk about Google?
EU.
Let's talk about Google for a bit. There's a lot of stuff going on with Google. First off, they have blocked Samsung's first Android ad blocker. So it wasn't actually Samsung. Samsung was partnering. It was working with their browser on their phones. It's called AdBlock Fast, and Google says that you can't really interfere with any of the network traffic or any of the stuff that's going on in the browser or on your phone. So it's sort of a way for Google to say no ad blockers. I know a lot of people have rooted phones and they're running ad block and that sort of thing on their rooted phone. And they can get around this. It's not difficult to get around this, but as a general rule, Google disallows ad blocking on their devices. Now you see something like Apple where they're actually, Apple is doing some of the ad blocking. And it's an interesting way to work because Apple makes a lot of their money from collecting and harvesting user data, right? So they're making a lot of money that way, even if there's no ads there. Google, well, they can make money on that, but they also serve a lot of ads. So it puts a little bit of a ding in their cash flow. They're still able to harvest data. I mean, that's the thing, but
there's something more interesting going on with this, and that is not just the Samsung thing. There are a bunch of players here that are kind of in a boundary seeking mode. And Google, anytime you ask Google to exactly define where the boundary is, they have a really hard time defining exactly where the boundary is because they have a vested interest in delivering ads as much as possible. And the line in the sand they seem to have drawn is not blocking ads, where you would think that they would draw the line, but apps that mess with other apps. And so it's sort of interesting that they've taken that stance, or they're saying that sort of technicality. And so they're not saying that Samsung's ad blocking software is not allowed, because they recently allowed AdBlock Plus, but AdBlock Plus was initially there and then taken off for violation of the terms of service. But the reason that it was taken off is because it was an application interfering or manipulating another app. And so then another interesting thing happened, which was with Firefox. And so Firefox said, yeah, we don't mind integrating with AdBlock Plus. That's totally fine. We're on board for that. And then Google was like, well, even though you're on board with that, we're not going to let AdBlock Plus and Firefox communicate with each other, even though they're different apps. AdBlock Plus can't interfere with Firefox. And so they seem to be suggesting that the ad blocker thing is okay to block ads from the internet as long as the internet browser is bundled with the ad blocker software. And so you can't have, sort of a plug-in to the browser that manipulates the browsing experience. And so they don't want you to have software in the Play Store that, for example, would manipulate Google Chrome to manipulate your Google Chrome browsing experience, which is very strange considering the Google Chrome plugin architecture on the desktop. So I don't know what that's about.
I wonder if Samsung's
I
going to
do
do
know what that's about, but
yeah,
it's sort of an interesting. Why did you define the boundary this way? I don't understand.
I wonder if Samsung is going to rework things and sort of bundle some ad blocking stuff into their browser. I mean, I think if you look at Samsung and what they're doing with like their smart TVs and stuff, you'd be more likely to see them try to do sort of what's the new Firefox. Well, it's made by the Firefox CEO. I forgot the name of it, but anyway, the new browser they were working on, where they remove the ads and put their own ads in there. I wonder if Samsung might think of doing something like that. Samsung, this is not an invitation to do that. It's a bad idea.
I don't trust Samsung, so it's untelling.
Yeah. All right, next up on the list, Google is blocking websites that show fake download buttons. So no more download roulette. That's interesting. I mean, they'll still be there. I mean, the websites are going to be there. You'll be able to click through or, hit the details button down here and then say, like, I wish to proceed. But there's a lot of websites out there, even some websites that seem like people go to them a lot. What's the one they mentioned here at the top? I don't even remember.
SourceForge?
CNET and SourceForge, yes. CNET and SourceForge. So
hopefully they're undoing all that nonsense.
Jesus, download roulette, is that really your best business model? So I'm kind of glad that Google's doing this because it's very deceptive. You go to the website, there's 10 download buttons, you don't know which one to click, and you click the wrong one and someone gets paid even though what you're clicking on is, it's a misdirection. You're not actually clicking on an advertisement thinking that I'd like more information about this ad. No, you're clicking on a download button because you want to get some crappy software on SourceForge, whatever it is. Anyway. Kind of interesting. All right, more Google stuff. We got a lot of Google. Oh, no, this is smartphone stuff. Sorry, it's not Google stuff. Can you guys tell I'm low energy? Let me get some more coffee. Hold on. Yes. All right, so Comcast. They're going to be sitting at the table when some more of the low frequency spectrum shows up on the market. So right now you've got all the other companies like T-Mobile, and they really need some more of this. But there's an auction about to happen. The FCC has scheduled the auction to begin on March 29th, and different companies are going to be able to bid. Comcast has reserved a seat for themselves at the table. What are they going to do with this? Are they going to start their own cell phone company? Are they going to be a carrier? That's terrifying.
Let me lay out Dr. Evil's plan. So, Dr. Evil's plan, you know how Google has their thing that sort of combines T-Mobile and Sprint, but also does a bunch of stuff on Wi-Fi. Well, Comcast thinks that they've got the software engineering cojones in order to be able to do that themselves. They're wrong, of course, but they're thinking, hey, we've got all these cable modems that we're stealing people's electricity for to do Wi-Fi hotspots. We can just turn those on, and then immediately we can be a cell phone provider in New York City and San Francisco and Los Angeles and all of these places where we happen to have markets. I don't know if they're in all those markets or not, but wherever Comcast has got a market, we can throw a button and turn all these cable modems into hotspots. And for the gaps in the hotspots, we can just throw up a couple towers at this, this other spectrum, this other frequency, and then blam, we've taken Google's business model and we're going to do it better because we already have the pre-existing infrastructure. That is what is on their mind. That is their business plan. And they're going to fail spectacularly at it because they lack the engineering talent to actually pull it off. But
that is seriously genius, though. That is genius. that's terrifying, but it's genius.
It is. It is genius, and it would take an army of genius engineers to pull it off. And those people have already quit and gone to work for other companies long ago.
I mean, see, the thing is that it's genius because of the complexity of the evil here. Comcast is not a very complex company as far as playing the future game, but playing the now evil game. Let's think about this. You've got the Comcast cable box or whatever in your house, the router with the Wi-Fi and everything. You've got that in your house. And those things probably cost $20 to make over in China or wherever they make them. They're charging you like $15 a month. Now, they're going to turn that into the hotspot that allows people out on the street to connect, and then they're going to charge those people on the street a fee to connect and use it as a mobile service provider. That is evil in so many different layers that it hurts my brain. It's almost beautiful in its sinisterness. Is that a thing? Sinisterness? I don't know. Wow, it's an abomination is what it is, but a beautiful one. All right, let's move right along then. Google Fiber. So they want to give free internet to the poor. They're hooking up some different houses. They're going to be doing this in about 1,300 households. Let me put this on the screen instead of you. There we go. 1,300 households in Kansas City. And I guess they just want to be everywhere because right now they've got their parent company Alphabet. Google's they all the different endeavors and stuff. That's now Alphabet, and Google is just Google. So they got Alphabet. And maybe Alphabet could benefit if more people are connected. And this is not going to be something like Facebook's internet. Let's call it this with the whatever these are. So it's not going to be like Facebook's internet, where you get connected to Facebook's little private walled garden. It's just Google Fiber. You're unmetered, you've got gigabit, and it's the internet. You can do whatever you want. So, if they're going to give it away to those people for free, they're low income.
Well,
go ahead.
It's the assistance housing. So it's not like, you live in a poor neighborhood. It's the housing that is already on federal assistantship. Like
public housing and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It just seems like an interesting business plan to give away millions of dollars worth of connectivity for free. That's very strange. I'm trying to figure out.
Have you believe it's millions of dollars worth of connectivity?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just don't know. I mean, it's probably not, but I just don't know. When someone gives away something for free, I'm trying to figure out what they're up to. And I know Google has been so far a somewhat benevolent dictator, but I want to know what they're up to. They're giving away something for free. Yes, is it just a PR stunt? They're giving it away to the public housing. Poor people have gigabit all of a sudden, and now they can have access to more tools, more jobs, better education. Are they just doing it as a philanthropic effort, as a media thing? We're like, look at how good we are. Do they need that? What are they doing? I can't figure out.
I think it's probably a PR move.
It's got to be a PR move.
it's a PR move, and Google wants more exposure. The incumbents are trying to come back. Comcast and Time Warner are trying to come back and be like, no, we could service too. Meanwhile, everyone laughs. Google is fairly serious about building a nationwide network that is accessible to the public because it only benefits them, and because the incumbents are moving slower than molasses running down the side of a jar in January.
Google Fiber is they were looking around in Portland. It should be there pretty soon. They apparently hired a bunch of people recently, and that's sort of the murmur. It's been on hold because of regulations and stuff. But if that shows up as well, there'll be like another fiber provider in Portland, Oregon. I don't know why the rest of the country doesn't just look there. It's ridiculous. There's like Google Fiber huts. I'm very excited about that, because then there'll be more local competition as well, saying, hey, let's do better things. Google's here. We got to compete. Anyway, competition good. Let's take a look at something that the PGP co-founder said. Now, the PGP is the pretty good privacy company. They're the company who made Black Phone. They also make some software called Silent Circle, and they've worked with Apple a little bit. So they do security, right? And he's saying that the biggest privacy problem today are not the governments. It's the ad agencies and the marketing companies. And he's done all he can to ruin his credibility with mainstream media and serious business types by wearing that steampunk hat. But we're going to move past that and realize that he is actually in a good position to be somewhat of an authority on this. And if you look through here, he's talking about some pretty obvious things that a lot of times we gloss over. We typically focus on the governments. They have all this data on you. They can watch your metadata and come up with patterns, figure out what you're doing just by looking at the phone numbers you call and by the places that you spend money, that sort of thing. The government is constantly sending subpoenas to Microsoft and Google and AT&T and all these different media companies, because they are the ones who have the real information on you. So that's where the security problem is. And also, they're not a government. They're not going to be, well, the government may not be as secure, but your data may not be as secure there. Who knows? And we don't really have that much control over what they're going to do with it. Not like we have any control over the government, but it's just interesting to stand back and think how much data Apple, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft have on all of us. And I mean, they know what we look for on the internet. They know they know some stuff that your significant other does not know and probably shouldn't know if you want to stay in that relationship, buddy. Like, seriously.
Google knows what you've been searching.
They do. It's kind of weird too, isn't it? Like, you ever if you could see your own search history, how would you feel? I don't know. Did you make anything out of this article, Wendell? I just kind of wanted to point it out. Didn't want to get into it too much. But
the only thing that makes me think of that is there was an episode of Futurama where they built like a robot Santa Claus, and it was like making a list of who's naughty and who's nice. When we invent AI, that data set that Google has on everybody on the planet is going to be there, and that AI is going to be like, all right, let's figure out, who's naughty and who's nice, and it's going to go through and just kill everyone because of their Google search history.
Yeah. If there's anyone left, they'll be the king. I don't think there will be anybody. So, more Google stuff.
The ad agencies are completely unchecked in terms of what kind of data they're going to collect and what kind of data that they're going to aggregate, and ad companies and companies like Google and Google knows. Not only do they know that if everybody else knew, they would freak out, which is why Google is so secretive and why Google doesn't really, want to talk about it and doesn't want to sort of make a spectacle of things, because they know that people would freak out. And slowly people are sort of acclimating, like the sort of, at least in America, the expectation of privacy as defined in law depends a lot on what the common citizen's expectation of privacy is. If the common citizen expects to be searched and tracked at all times, then they don't have a reasonable expectation not to be searched and tracked at all times, which is a very fast, very dangerous slope to go down. And we appear to be going down so fast that we are actually hovering above the surface of the slope on which we are headed down because of the Bernoulli effect or something like that.
Let me put this into perspective. I want this to be creepy to everyone out there. I want you to feel creepy. So I'm going to tell you a creepy story here as an analogy to the way this has happened. And this is not just Google, but Google's one of the biggest. So you get up and you're having your breakfast and you look outside and there's a car parked in the street, a couple of guys in it, just there all day long, looking inside, and you're like, it's weird. But you sit down and you do your work and you think, I don't know what's going on with those guys, but it's whatever. I just keep doing my thing. A couple of weeks go by, you get used to them, and by the time you get used to them, one of them gets out and comes up and stands right in front of your window and just stands. Doesn't do anything else, just stands there staring inside, right? So you look and you're like, okay, that's a bit weird. Keep doing your work. A couple weeks go by, you get used to it, and you're like, oh, it's just that guy. Don't worry about him. He doesn't do anything. He just stands there. And sometimes he's even helpful. He he'll point at something, and I'll be like, oh, I was looking for my keys. There they are. Thank you so much. This guy's actually kind of helpful. Then next thing you know, you wake up one day and he's standing inside by your computer, just hanging out there, just doing whatever, and he's helpful. You don't say anything to him, but every once in a while he goes, oh, you're looking for this, or here's this, and you're like, okay, I can get used to this. Then you go to bed. Get used to him. He's just standing out there all the time. Next thing you know, he's cuddling with you in your bed, holding you, caressing your whiskers.
Didn't I read about this in a novel? Wasn't that like the Stasi? It's like the German police. Wasn't that how they like that? It's like, oh, they're just outside watching. It's like, oh, they're watching me sleep now. That's probably not good. Except now they're electronic instead of people.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is going to end, and Google's going to have their tongue in your ear, and you're going to be okay with it. And I want you to be creeped out by that. It's important that you're creeped out. All right. Let's talk more about Google, shall we? We've got a lot of Google stuff going on. So they're self-driving cars. I want to do more on Google stuff because I think we give them a pass on a lot of this stuff, and I may be guilty of this as well, just going down the same slope where it's like you just let Google have more and more of you. And it's a trade-off because it makes your life convenient.
I can't help myself.
Yeah. It's a trade-off because it's convenient. If it was full artificial intelligence, would it feel different? If there was, it would feel differently if there were no people involved in the chain. I don't know. Anyway, Google, they're about to test out some self-driving cars in a few new areas. One being Kirkland, Washington. If we can get over there and take a look at it, that would be interesting. They're trying to figure out ways to. They're trying to test the car in some different environments. That's basically what they're doing. They've been trying it in certain areas, but now they want to try it in Kirkland. And then also the Isle of Man really wants them to try their cars there as well, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not. But they want the entire island to be full of self-driving cars. They want it to be a testing ground, but we'll see how that goes. And I guess we'll see more and more of this, But I just thought it was cool over in Kirkland. If you guys think we should go take a look at it, let me know. I'm not sure if it's really hot new news or anything. Oh, Google's trying out a different market. Is that cool news? I don't know. Maybe. Should we go look at it? I don't know. Maybe.
It would be fun. It would be fun to go look at the driverless cars.
All right. This is an interesting article. It's about Alphabet and Google. And we could talk about this for just a minute. We could talk about their moonshots. So the title of the headline here on the conservation.com is Google. Big bets on future tech are a sign of an empire bidding for immortality. So I guess the bottom line is that a lot of companies, even the big ones, they don't last more than 100 years because they do their thing and they do it well, and the other companies come around. But Google, now that they have Alphabet, they're playing they've always played the long game, and we've watched them always play the long game, but now even more so with Alphabet. They're trying to enable sort of a startup feel with some of the new companies that Alphabet's working on. Still, it's a major mega corporation. But Google is no longer in charge of like AI and all that sort of thing. That's Alphabet, and they've got all these different things they're working on that they call moonshots. And they lose money year to year. Like they lost $1.9 billion in 2014, $527 million in 2013, and last year in 2015 they lost $3.6 billion. But they don't care. They're working on stuff like driverless cars and wearables, fiber optic broadband they're rolling out. Just all kinds of stuff. IP video cameras, solar-powered drones. It's just a huge list of things here. Contact lenses that can monitor different conditions in your body. Nanoparticles that can predict diseases. You can see all here on the list. So with all of this, they're kind of creating for themselves, I don't know, like new avenues and new platforms, and they could possibly also be working on some artificial intelligence endeavors, but they're trying to keep their company around for a long time, just investing in tons of different things. I don't know, do you see any future implications for any of these things?
Well, it's a little off topic, but I couldn't help, I read the article, and I think they missed the boat a little bit, and without getting too far off topic, this might be a fun story for another video, honestly.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of Xerox. So in the 60s and 70s, there was Xerox. Yes, the photocopier company. But before photocopying was a thing, mimeographs and things like that were a thing, which is another way of copying things. And before there were computers, and before there were imaging things, and before there was really anything, Xerox basically took over the universe and sort of became the company for doing stuff with documents. And Xerox, at their Palo Alto Research Center, developed a lot of technology because they thought that the paperless office was right around the corner, because they were watching what IBM and other companies were doing with computers, and they were scared out of their minds that the paperless office was going to make them obsolete. So they basically spent a ton of money in 1970 at the Palo Alto Research Center and came up with a whole bunch of futuristic technologies. And those technologies did not financially benefit Xerox at all. And I think the people at Google sort of are aware of that and learn from that. You know, out of the Palo Alto Research Center came, you know, the graphical user environment, and you know, Windows and the Macintosh operating
The mouse.
have their precursor ideas. And yeah, I mean, Douglas Engelbart with the mouse and the practical applications for the mouse sort of evolved at the Palo Alto Research Center. Pretty significant uses of that. The GUI and just all sorts of crazy. It's so crazy that there's tons of stuff from the Palo Alto Research Center in the Smithsonian, and you can go read about it. It's, like I say, it's a story for another time. But I think the people at Google are aware of this story, are sort of cognizant of this, and I think that's why they're dumping billions of dollars down this black hole. Google is not making money at this. They're losing billions of dollars every year on these kinds of things, but it's giving their people access to this kind of stuff. From the original 13 Park researchers that were working, all of them, or pretty much all of them except for like maybe one, are multi-millionaires. One of them went on to found 3Com Corporation, which basically invented Ethernet. So, you know, I mean, there's all these technologies that came out of Park that Xerox did not benefit from, but they basically built the paperless office. And so Google is trying to do that here, and there have already been some things that have come out of Google's research that have escaped their grasp. Like, I saw a few guys that used to work at Google, and I sort of got to meet them when we were traveling, and they are working on basically software-defined networking, where they're using like commodity PC hardware and commodity networking hardware, and they're building really amazing core infrastructure gear. And they used to work at Google, and this is what Google's doing a lot internally, but this is going to go up against like Juniper and Cisco, against those juggernauts for how they're doing stuff internally. And so if something that advanced is something that is escaping Google's grip, one can only imagine how amazing the stuff is that's going on behind the scenes that we have no idea of. And yeah, these things are not going to pay off next year or, you know, a few years down the line, but can you imagine how much money Xerox would have made had they owned basically the computer revolution? I mean, they would have owned HP and Microsoft, and I mean, it was IBM's personal computer division. It would have been
Apple too. It would have. They could have owned Apple as well. All of it came from Park. Unbelievable. So yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. While you were saying that, I just popped open LibreOffice and started typing a couple of things, and I was like, Google and Park. Do research, make video. So as soon as we get to the new office, there's a couple of different things I want to bend my brain towards, some bigger projects that are not just, hey, there's a new thing out, let's talk about the new thing that's on the market that everyone else is talking about. Do sort of like what we were born to do. And that's just sort of shine light in some different areas and offer some perspectives rather than just talking about all the new hardware. We're still going to talk about the new hardware because that's exciting and it enables us to do things, but I want to get back to the big picture stuff. And right now I'll segue into the Patreon thing because this is a great time to talk about it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for this. It is the only reason that we are able to get an office. It's literally the only reason. If this time about a year and a half ago, if it wasn't for AdBlock, we'd probably be able to get an office without this. Nope, not now. So AdBlock has gone away. I mean, AdBlock has made the ads go away, but this has been saving us. So it feels good to know that you guys care enough to help support the content. And I will say, I think this is going to be our best year. After we get the office set up, the stress levels will go way down. We'll be able to work a lot more efficiently, and that's the key. So I cannot wait to get in there. We're leaving Wendell this coming Monday. We're loading everything in a truck and just heading down. And the office is like an 80% yes. They told us today that someone else put a bid in and they have to weigh their options between the multiple bids. And I was like, I thought we had it. I thought everything was good. We shook hands, but you said you'd send me the contract tomorrow, and then you sent me the contract just a little while ago and said there's another bid. We're going to look at them both. And I was like, oh God, It's crazy market, but we'll get a place. So yeah, I offered to help them wire the building for Ethernet. Probably
Your
stupid.
one job is
but
to get moved and get ready for the next episode of the tech. So you have until Thursday. Get it done.
the next episode of the tech will be filmed in a garage.
On the street. That's what we said last week.
Yeah, the street might be on the street, but probably in a garage. If we get the new office by then, it's ready to move into. So we'll go ahead and throw the computer and stuff in there and set up a makeshift set and have it ready. And then we're going to put up, build a set and make some wood paneling. It'll be really awesome once we get it set up. It'll be so much easier to work. I can't wait. Anyway, thanks again to everybody.
It does not. You don't have to put any work into this. Zach Galifianakis has shown us that all you need is a sheet and 2 ferns, and that is all you need.
Yeah. He's got Brad Pitt on the show, and
done.
Could work. I was thinking I was going to go more with, I don't know, some props from a boat. And I don't know, whatever the hell else, just all kinds of weird random
just get a Bass
items.
Tracker 5000, saw it in half, put it in the background. Yeah, it seems reasonable. I mean, why not? Whatever.
Why not? Used car parts on the back wall, just random stuff everywhere. If you guys, here's another idea we had. Wendell, Kane and I were talking while we were driving, half delirious from lack of sleep. We were like, you know what? We'll get a P.O. box downtown Portland and let you guys send us stuff. And we'll make one wall. We'll just cover it in all the stuff you guys send us. Mostly old graphics cards and PCB stuff. You just need motherboards and whatnot. It'd be really cool if you had old hardware that's lying around and you want to see it in the background of our set. We'll get P.O. box. You guys send it. We'll build a wall covered in motherboards and other hardware that you guys send in. I think that sounds like kind of fun. Maybe let the audience be a part of the set. I thought it sounded like fun.
Let me make some calls and see if I can. There was a guy that offered to give me a Cray about 5 or 6 years ago, and that would be the ultimate set piece.
That would be nice.
We would gut it, of course, but
yeah,
those things. I mean, come on, it's hard
crazy.
to top a Cray.
It is totally crazy.
Totally.
And then also, thanks again for everyone who's supporting the music. Or hope you guys enjoy it. You're supporting it, you're buying it. So, but yeah, this is also supporting the game development, and it's really coming along. I wish I could show you guys some of the things, but there's too many secrets. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on. And I want to say thanks to a few of the forum members who have jumped in, taken some concept art and turned it into actual 3D assets. You guys are awesome. We got some really cool 3D assets, even some of the swords and stuff from the community. So we'll do a little showcase on that in the future. All right. Singtel over in Singapore. Singtel has launched their 10 gigabit service. And just quick mention of this because it's around $189 per month. Man, if it wasn't so hot there, that would be a cool place to be. 10 gigabits per second for $189 a month. We've got a couple 10 gig spots in the country. You can get it in Vermont. I think you can get it in some places in Portland, and I know you can get it in the Twin Cities area in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. And if there's anywhere else you guys know of that you can get residential 10 gig, let me know. But I think one of the interesting things here is that they were saying in the article is that they recognize that the residential customers are using greater bandwidth and requiring faster speeds for online activities, and they're trying to give them what they need. Someone over there realizes that people actually need bandwidth. When over here you've got everyone from politicians to the major ISPs like Comcast being like, nobody could possibly need more than 20 megabits a second. It's ridiculous. I don't know, what do you think?
10 gig. This should demonstrate that 10 gig transceivers are getting super cheap. And again, if you have the fiber optic infrastructure right now, today, even 40 gig transceivers are not really that expensive. Fiber optic trunk line, you're talking about 26, 28 pair, 50 pair, maybe not even that. You get into a situation where the bandwidth really isn't that expensive. Most of the expense of a network is maintaining the last mile of connection, but with fiber optic, you just swap out the transceivers and you're good to go. 10 gig transceivers, yeah, they're still kind of expensive. 1 gig transceivers, the bill of materials cost is like $8 at this point. 10 gig transceivers, of course, are a little more expensive. They're not insanely expensive. 5-6 years ago, they were $100 for just the componentry. But now the cost is very small, so there's not really any excuse that we don't have fiber everywhere. I mean, pretty much every country needs fiber everywhere, and countries that have wired in the last 20 years do have fiber everywhere. We have fiber everywhere, but it's inaccessible to the public, largely because the last mile has been grossly mismanaged.
Is beleaguered the right word for the last mile? No, probably not. I just wanted to use that word, but it's not the right word for it. The situation of the internet, I don't know, is beleaguered, under siege maybe? I don't know. Anyway, I think one thing that's interesting about the way they're doing this is they're giving people a router that only has 4 gigabit ports. So that's not going to use the whole 10 gigabits worth of bandwidth, but they're also doing a lot to give them tons of dual band AC wireless access. So they figured a lot that they did studies, and they were like, oh, most of our users do everything over Wi-Fi. So this is going to cover a lot of wireless devices. Hopefully it won't overheat, and then 4 people can get full on gigabit speed through the ports. But AC does a really good job as well. So that's a lot of connected devices, and not a lot of slowdown. Pretty crazy. You seen these new Samsung trucks? This is kind of like an interesting idea. Put screens on the back of a truck that show you what's happening in front of the truck. So as you're driving along, here I'll bring up this video, you can see what's going on in front of you. It's sort of a safety feature. I hope some people who are drunk do not just drive into the back of the truck because they think it's not there, because they look up and it's just a screen showing what's in front of the truck, and they're like, oh, I can totally go, oh, I've wrecked myself. Yeah. But it still looks pretty cool, and I think it's a bit cyberpunk, in my opinion, like having screens on the back of trucks that just show what's in front of the truck. It's kind of cool looking, but yeah. Safety, maybe? I don't know. Just the next thing. Moving right along. How about some lab-grown meat, Wendell? Delicious lab-grown meat. We've got several companies working on this, and they've been able to grow small amounts of lab-grown meat. The main thing now is the efficiency of lab-grown meat. It takes, what do they say? Where's the numbers here? 23 calories of feed to produce 1 calorie of beef. That's grossly inefficient. Memphis Meats, they say they can reduce this by a factor of 3 to 1. They can use 90% less power and 50% less energy. So, I don't know. Do you think that the future of meat, they're calling this, what they said, the second, what's the word for this? Let me clap right here. Domestication, that's it. So they're calling this the second domestication. Do you think that this is the future of meat, Wendell?
It is likely that this is where we're going to end up. I mean, in the Q-grade beef, soy has become a significant portion of that. We've basically gotten to the point where we're recycling all the undesirable parts of the animal. The horrible pink paste that McDonald's chicken nuggets are made out of is basically all the undesirable parts of a chicken. So it seems like lab-grown meat as a replacement for those less than premium cuts of meat will very soon be a thing. And by soon, I'm saying probably the next 20 years. When you can grow the Syndicate, or you can grow, the actual muscle or whatever in a lab, and have it basically be real, and it's a reasonable facsimile for meat, then yeah, it's going to take over. It's going to be lower cost. It's going to be less to produce. We've already seen that factory in Japan that's producing heads of lettuce with like 2% of the water and resource requirements of a typical lettuce growing operation. And so this is just the meat equivalent of that. And so yeah, it's going to take over just as soon as it's cost effective.
If you also look into Japan, there's another article where they're about to build the first fully autonomous garden with multiple levels and robots that wander around watering and pruning and just harvesting and planting. It's an entire giant facility. It's going to be producing a lot of vegetables. No humans are needed. So that's happening. 20 years down the road, I'm wondering if we'll have meat processing facilities, growing meat, robots doing all the work, and then for the vegetables, the same exact thing. Grown indoors, fewer fields. It'll change the landscape, and it'll also drastically change what people do for a living in a lot of different places. I mean, can you imagine if you do not need human interaction to grow corn? What's going to happen to the Nebraska and Kansas and all those states in the middle of the country if you don't need human interaction to grow rice? Huge swaths of inner China where people are just growing rice it's going to be transformed into something else. Maybe they'll get different jobs. Maybe they'll move into the cities. Maybe that's why China is building so many mega cities. Anyway, it's an interesting thing to think about. The other thing I want to ask some of you guys out there in the audience, if you're a vegan or a vegetarian or someone who does not eat meat, would you eat lab-grown meat? I know some of you guys don't eat it for health purposes or whatever, or you don't like the taste of it perhaps. But if you're one of those who does not eat it because you're into the ethical treatment of animals and you're upset about the way animals are treated, would you eat this meat? Would you have a hamburger? Have you been dying for a hamburger, but you cry when you think of the cows? Is that you? I want to know. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at some hardware. MIT is working on a 168-core chip, and they're going to make it for mobile devices and just all kinds of things, self-driving cars, and the idea. Well, I don't know where that came from. No, I must be getting tired. The idea here is that this is going to be sort of an artificial intelligence chip. It's going to function more along those lines. And right now, when you talk to your iOS device, your Google device, it's in your hand and it processes things in a very specific way, and then it pings something on the cloud to get an answer. It pings some intelligence elsewhere to say, hey, he's asking this question, what do you think? And you have to be connected and all that sort of thing. And then the same thing with self-driving cars. A lot of times the computers that they have do not have strong enough AI on their own to be able to navigate a road full of potholes or obstructions that were not there in the, when they're looking at the 3D maps or the geo-positioning and GPS and all that sort of thing. This technology may allow them to install this sort of processor, maybe the next version of it or a better version or faster version. This is already a pretty fast processor. People to install this into self-driving cars and some of those devices and let it intelligently navigate around potholes and obstructions and that sort of thing. Kind of interesting what they're working on over at MIT. I don't know, do you see any other future implications for a processor like this that is more of a neural type processor?
This type of a setup is always going to be the thing that we see in signal processing applications in general. This is going to be a really good setup where you've got a network. Imagine a network of rangefinders, or you get to a point where you've painted the car with basically nanoscale sensors that sense proximity, infrared light, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, some of the sensors are bad. Well, we don't care. It's like, oh, there's a scratch in your paint, and now some of the sensors don't work. Don't care. But in order to compute that, rather than having a few really fast cores, plowing through a million different sensors worth of data, having tons and tons and tons and tons of cores, individual cores, processing that data following a generic algorithm, basically doing parallel computation. This is just sort of shrinking it to chip levels. And so it's like, why is that useful to actually shrink it to chip levels? And it's because, well, you can then embed the processor in a distributed fashion in the device that you're building. And so driverless cars, of course, is one really cool application, but it could be added to a whole range of smart devices, even beyond just cars. The fact that all of these are distributed and that all of these are going to be, the very latest in terms of lithography techniques, it's not going to really consume a lot of power. And so, yeah, it is 168 cores, and yeah, each one of those cores is nowhere near as fast as the fastest thing that's available in a single core. But because they're low power and because they're not as fast as the fastest thing available, and because of the type of data that they're processing, when something faster needs that data, these things are going to be able to tell another computer farther up the chain which things are important from the data stream and which things are not, which is the signal to noise ratio in this vast stream of data. And these signal processing systems for like driverless cars, those are the most important things, being able to sort of separate the signal from the noise. And this type of processor is exactly what you need to do that.
All right, let's talk about something a bit more fantastic as far as the futurology goes. This kind of blew my mind. Some researchers over at the University of Washington have figured out how to essentially read your mind with some electrodes. They put the electrodes on your brain, and what they did first to try to figure out what the different signals in your brain meant, they showed a bunch of pictures, and then they were able to decipher, okay, this is the response when they see this picture, and now without even or verbally saying anything, they're able to detect what the person is thinking with like a 96% accuracy, and it happens in just a few milliseconds, 20 milliseconds. That's interesting. They're even able to hook electrodes up to two different people and let them sort of read each other's minds. This is like some science fiction going on over here. The article doesn't go into extreme detail about the complexities of this, but I'm sure there are some. And also there's going to be plenty of implications. Right now they're trying to cure some degenerative diseases that occur in the brain. And they said they've even been able to get people who are paralyzed to like move their finger. So some of their research is enabling lots of interesting things. Of course, I can already see the comments right now. I can see you guys down there in the comments saying things like, oh, great, now the thought police is going to be a real thing and we're going to be required to have one of these implants. And yeah, they'll know exactly what we're thinking at all times. That's a grim outlook. Let's not give them that idea. Especially not in the UK. They would love that in the UK. They'd be like, what? We can read their minds? Interesting. I think we should do it, Reginald. Why is his name Reginald?
This story reminded me of another story that I had read, and I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it. But it was a story about a guy who wanted some glass electrodes implanted in the speech center in his brain, and so he paid like some doctor in like South America or something, to implant them. And when he woke up after surgery, he couldn't speak and his language was all messed up. And the surgeon was like, oh, what have I done? Why? Because it was this type of surgery that would have never been allowed in America. Just like not even, it's elective brain surgery. I mean, what the hell? That's insane. But eventually he got the electrodes, like he sort of recovered and got the electrodes working and sort of pioneered some of this kind of thing. So it turned out that it didn't have a horrifying ending. But at the same time, it's like elective brain surgery. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna be first in line for the brain computer implant. I mean, come on, let's be real. But after reading some of this stuff, it's like elective brain surgery. It's like, well, no, I'll go so far as sort of implanting something under my scalp. But I'm not really sure I want to inject anything directly into my brain. That's probably not a good idea.
Who knows? Maybe they'll make it small enough, or I have no idea. Mind reading. Who knows? Let's talk about anti-aging.
Carbon nanotube probes. And it's like 5 years later. It's like, oh, by the way, carbon nanotubes cause cancer. It's like,
They haven't figured it out yet. Let's talk about anti-aging. How about that? That's always fun. There's a number of different people out there working on this, but right now scientists have figured out how to expand the life of mice by about 25%, which is pretty huge. And what they've done is something that seems pretty simple. They've just gone down, and I believe it's the senescent, is that how you say it? The senescent cells. Those are the cells that stop dividing, or the cells that just basically stop reproducing and all that sort of thing. They've discovered that by eliminating those cells, the mice live much longer. It also does another thing. It slows down their aging. I mean, it would be kind of pointless if a mouse could live an extra 25 years, but it didn't stop the whole aging process, and they're just like, oh, I'm really old and I'm so sick, man. Why am I alive? It will actually help to stop things like glaucoma and cancer and tumor growth. It can help to, it basically keeps you in a young state for a longer period of time. And right now there's a couple human implications. There are people doing some research to try to figure out if they can turn this into a medication or a treatment that we can take as humans to essentially get rid of those cells. Kind of interesting. So that's just one avenue as far as the whole hunt for the whole search for, I guess, Ponce de Leon's fountain of youth. Maybe they'll find it one of these days. I don't know where it'll be though. I don't know. Would you take these pills?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think I would too. Too much stuff to do. It's like, oh, I can get another 25, 30 years. Good. There's a lot of stuff to do.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right, moving right along here. Oh, do you want to talk about the fusion reactor breakthroughs that are happening in Germany, or do you think it's that different than what we've already talked about? Or
we've talked about it before. We can sum it up in 20 seconds. The Wendelstein 7, which is a computer-designed prototype fusion reactor, has achieved hydrogen plasma, which is the first step on actually producing fusion. And so everything has basically gone according to plan. Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany, is that the right title?
Yeah, Chancellor. Angela Merkel is the Chancellor, yes.
Yeah, she actually has a doctorate in physics. Bravo, Germany. America
And she got
would never
elected
elect
to.
anyone so educated.
How in the hell did that happen?
It's just not going to happen here in America. But yeah, she threw the switch apparently, and the
that's cool.
Wendelstein 7 is online and making plasma or whatever, and it works. And so the real big news that we will report when it happens will probably be in a few months when they actually get to the point where they're actually doing fusion, and they will actually have numbers on whether or not the fusion that they are producing is net energy positive. And if it is, then we will sort of usher in a new it will sort of usher in a new era for mankind. And so with the $10 a barrel oil that's happening right now in America, be on the lookout for a terrorist attack that sends us back to the Stone Age.
It's kind of interesting that Angela Merkel, she's someone who got to throw the switch and who actually understood what she was doing. She was like, I'm going to throw the switch and this is going to happen. Whereas here in America, we'd be on television and be like, so if I throw this switch, is it going to blow up the country? And then they'd throw the switch and it would be a big laugh. And that was what would happen. That's exactly what would happen. So, yeah. I'm moving along here.
We would be lucky, honestly, if they went on like Family Feud and did okay.
Oh, God. I bet that they would love it, too. They would love Family. But that's what the country wants, right? They want to watch politicians on Family Feud slinging mud and going, oh, no, and Steve Harvey up there saying something terribly offensive. That's what they want to see, right?
I think it would be amazing. I mean, can you imagine an America's Got Talent with, like, Mitch McConnell on stage playing a saw? I mean, I think that would be really amazing.
Mitch McConnell playing a saw. In overalls, right? No, he has to be in overalls.
Yeah. There's there's about 2/3 of the international audience that has now paused the video and is furiously Googling to find out if a saw is a musical instrument, and are being quietly horrified as they find example videos and things like that of some guy bending a saw and hitting it with a rubber mallet in order to make sound. So
it's haunting. Everybody, it's haunting. The sound of a saw is haunting.
What do you think Bernie Sanders' instrument would be?
Probably like he was a punk rocker back in his day. I would say, guitar or saxophone. I don't know. Who knows?
It could be its own little mini website. It's like America's Got Talent, the Politician Edition. It would just be no end of comedy, making up all the different special talents that all the politicians have.
Does anybody own the politicianedition.com? Because if not, you better register that before I upload this video. I don't know what we'll use it for, but it's got a hell of a ring to it, doesn't it? You know what else has a ring to it? Planetary disaster on Earth is a near certainty, says Stephen Hawking. Yeah, he seems to be he's been throwing out a lot of warnings over the last year or so, and now he's just saying, like, guys, it's a near certainty you're going to kill each other. There's we got basically the thing is that the thing that's going to bring upon our demise is the new technology. But we're not going to stop moving forward, and we're not going to stop creating new technology. But as we do, we're going to create more powerful weapons. We're going to create artificial intelligence, and if we do so without being careful, well, yeah, he's saying that he's saying that we're probably on course for a major disaster sometime in the next 100 years. Who's building a mantle melter? Is anyone building a device to melt the mantle of the Earth? Why would they do it? I bet they're doing it. Like, what's that?
The Wendelstein 7. It's like, oops, created a black hole. Sorry. No, it's not. That's not going to happen. That's just silly.
I don't know. I trust Angela Merkel.
10 times the energy of that. Probably even more than 10 times the energy. But
they're building one in North Korea, I hear.
I think that part of this, you got to consider also that as a physicist, I think he's genuinely surprised that we haven't really found empirical or mathematical evidence of a civilization. So, just sort of, this is kind of a perversion of the Drake equation, but not really. But you take all the planets that we can observe in the sky, and all the stuff, and as far as we've come with technology in the last 100 years, imagine 1,000 years of that pace with technology, and it's not hard to imagine that we might be, a a galaxy spanning civilization. And if we were in 1,000 years a galaxy spanning civilization, there would be a lot of evidence for us. And so of all the planets in our galaxy, it's not unreasonable to think that at least one of those planets in one of those solar systems would be 1,000 years ahead of us technologically. And so why don't we see any evidence of their civilization? It's like, well, some people said there's a great filter. There's some kind of an event that occurs that filters out life before it is able to get that complex. And so then the question becomes, does our civilization exist before or after that event? Was the great filter the meteor for the dinosaurs, and we have survived that? And because we're on the outer rim of the galaxy, there's not really as much radiation and crazy stuff like that. Is that what's going on? And so Stephen Hawking is no doubt considering all of these things and looking at this and saying, we really need to get off this planet. We need to be able to have manufacturing and industry and stuff, if not on the moon, on Mars, or on other planets of our
asteroids
solar system, but ideally outside our own solar system. I mean, we've found planets sort of kind of in the habitable zone of other stars. We need to get there, and we need to get there technologically. And so he's saying, well, in 100 years we'll probably have the technology to do that, but in the next 100 years we'll probably also have the technology to more easily destroy ourselves. And so that may be what normally happens through the rest of the cosmos, because the number of planets in the galaxy is such an astronomically large number that it boggles the mind. And he's no doubt considering that, and considering that we have not observed any evidence of any advanced civilizations at all.
A lot of people look for the somewhere. Not a lot of people look for the some when, as far as when things existed. If they did exist, it may not have been at the same time. We should be able to see some traces of that. And I guess this is something we could also make another video. I wonder if we could talk to Stephen Hawking. I would like to know his thoughts on sort of that sort of thing. Maybe we were from another planet. Maybe, I don't know. Well, who knows? I mean, we don't know anything. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there. Maybe there were other things out there, but maybe they didn't exist just at the same time. And how would we find them? Or if we got a signal from a system that was 100 million light years away, well, 100 million years ago there was something there. I don't know what's there now. They probably blew themselves up by now, but you never know.
Well, think about a civilization that does not destroy itself. You get in a situation where our solar system, 5.5 billion years old, and here we are at 5 billion years later. The age of the galaxy, the age of the universe is on the order of 15 billion years. It's not unreasonable to think that there are civilizations out there that are not 1,000 years more advanced than us, that are 100,000 years more advanced than us, or 1,000,000 years more advanced than us. And if we ourselves are 1,000,000 years more advanced than we are now, surely we would have spread in a way that would be detectable to the instruments that we have now today. Unless
that civilization is so advanced that they're the ones running the simulation that we're in right now. They need came here for the Matrix. Yeah, it's holographic universe. They're running the holographic universe, so which is an interesting theory to look into. But
we're a three-dimensional projection on a two-dimensional surface on the expanding edge of the Big Bang, or something like that.
Yeah, it's very interesting to look into. I don't necessarily adhere to it, but fun to read about. It'll mess with your brain if you actually believe it. So, yeah. All right. Let's talk about video games. We got a bit heavy there. A lot of these topics we're talking about today, I almost want to make like special video segments on and get into them a bit. That one, and also the Google and Park connection. Anyway, let's talk about some video games. This is a really interesting early demo of the Unreal Engine 4, and they are building in VR. Just pick and place, just grabbing. This is really interesting to me. We're using the Unreal Engine 4. I don't know if there's any application for this in our game, but you know what? If they release an update, I might grab an Oculus or whatever the hell they're using. I don't know if it's a Vive, I can't tell there, but I might grab one of those and give it to the developer and see if it helps them out a little bit. It looks a little bit clunky and cumbersome right now, but I think this is the first step to the future of game design. I think you'll have a bunch of guys in a room, possibly not with all this accoutrement, and they'll just be like moving things around, sort of like Minority Report, and they'll be building their games. It's pretty much what you see is what you get. That's kind of cool.
It probably
wanna
would
try
be a
this.
lot of fun to design a game with these kind of tools.
Yeah, it looks slightly clunky, but it's not that bad, actually. If they could figure out how to make the interface less jittery, because you're holding stuff in your hands, you have the whole Wii remote effect where you're trying to push the start button, but it's like the thing's hovering like this. You know, this is your start button right here. Like, start. There you go. It's hard to keep it completely stable. If we had some way to just pick things up out of the air or something, I don't know, Minority Report style, that would be really cool. Anyway, very interesting technology there. We have Left 4 Dead, Back from the Dead, Left 4 Dead 3. So I'll let you talk about this one. I didn't play Left 4 Dead that much, but go ahead.
It's the first time Valve has been able to count to 3. It's the coming sign of the apocalypse. Valve's going to give it a shot. They're going to try to do Left 4 Dead 3. It's confirmed for 2017. Don't even know what this is the beginning of. I think if this doesn't go catastrophically, maybe we can get Half-Life 3 at some point in the next 3 years.
All right, I got a job for everybody. So the new Doom trailer has been released. This just come out today, yeah. It's crazy. Anyway, the new Doom trailer has been released. And, oh my goodness, it's so gory. Oh my. Anyway, they've also, the release date, it's coming out in May. So we're having LAN Syndicate on April 15th through the 17th in Seattle. You should be there. I've already put an email into Bethesda. I'm going to start calling them, and I'm going to keep calling them until they say that we can have a couple of computers and some stations set up for maybe some beta deathmatch of this game. What do you guys think about that? If you guys think that's a good idea, go ahead and tweet at Bethesda and at id Software and just say, we want a beta at LAN Syndicate, and then link to LANsyndicate.com. Do that, and there's a pretty okay chance that we may have a few computers set up. I'll probably partner with, someone like Puget Systems or someone who makes gaming computers, and we'll set up 4 or 5 of these and let people come and play them. That's my idea. I think it'd be fun. And, I mean, come on. We're the guys who, went on top of a mountain, we climbed all the way to the top, and played Doom. Come on. It's obvious. We should be doing this in our LAN party. I think we should.
Did we ever figure out the internet for the hangar?
Yeah, we got that taken care of. So.
Yay!
Probably going to be CenturyLink.
Oh, thank God. Yay.
But if the fallback plan is 600 megabit per second, Comcast.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's probably going to be CenturyLink. They've been very nice. Yeah, we got almost everything figured out. Like literally, we got almost everything figured out except the electrical. But someone's calling us back in a day.
I drew the table layouts to scale, but nobody got me the exact dimensions of the table yet. So.
Oh no.
And also, the fire marshal has not okayed the aisle width. So if any of you fall and die and get trapped because the aisle wasn't wide enough, that was my bad.
So we're waiting on those little details, but those will get taken care of before April 15th for sure. You guys just better be ready for it. It's going to be awesome. Like freaking awesome. We'll see you guys there, and thanks again to all of our all of our supporters on Patreon and tech support. You guys are keeping us alive. I also want to say thanks to some of the Good Samaritans who helped us to upgrade our website this week. It's a nice little upgrade. We upgraded both the website and the forum, so it should be working nice now. And some people were nice enough to point out that we need an upgrade, and we did it. So thanks very much, you Good Samaritans. And that's pretty much it for this week. You got anything to say in closing, Wendell?
Banana.